All right, hello there. So today for your video, you are going to learn about piecewise functions. Now you've seen me put this in different places throughout this year so far. I've given you them in equation form, I've given you pictures, and now we're going to learn how to draw them. But first let's learn to pick apart the graphs and also see how to write these equations. So on this first one on the left, there are three equations there. I want you to notice that there is y equals x squared, y equals 6, and also y equals 10 minus x. So those three equations make up our piecewise function. So I'm going to go ahead and start a piecewise function. So you do y equals, you put this little squiggly bracket there, and let's move from left to right. So the first one on the left is y equals x squared, so I'm going to go ahead and put x squared. Now the next thing you have to notice when you're writing the equation for this is you have to notice where it goes until. So this lasts all the way back from the negative infinity to like right here. So do you see that it stops at 2? So I'm going to define this this function only goes, it goes on this picture from negative infinity to 2, but notice that it's open here, right there. So it doesn't include 2. So when I go down to my equation, I'm going to say use x squared if x is less than 2. So if x is less than 2, so that's this section right here, if x is less than 2, then I'm going to use the problem x squared. Okay, all right, so moving on, right at 2, I see the answer is 6. That's this middle problem right here. Okay, so right at 2, the answer is 6. So that's my next thing. So if you are at 2, the answer is 6. So the answer is the y value. So that goes here. The answer is 6 if x equals 2. All right, and then finally, I have this section right here. And so that section goes, if I go ahead and mark it, that section goes from, let's see, everything just after 2 to, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 to 6. So it lasts all the way from 2 all the way to 6, but it doesn't include 2. All right, so that equation it says on the graph is 10 minus x. So I'm going to use that equation, 10 minus x, if x, and this time I need is between, let's see, between 2, because that's where it's starting, that has that open circle right here, and then it lasts all the way to 6, but it includes 6 because it has a filled-in circle. So there we go. So that's how you pick apart a graph. You look at how many pieces you have, and then you look at how wide they are, how much, what x values does it last for. So let's go ahead and do some stuff up here on this next graph. So let me start my problem. I notice I have 3 different equations there, so I'm going to make my bracket kind of big. And so why don't we write this time, we'll write f of x or something. All right, so you can also say f of x equals, put a big bracket right here because f of x is y. And before we go on, let's write some equations here. So this blue line, if I continued this blue line up, you don't have to on your picture, but you see that blue line continues there. It crosses at 2 and it has a slope of 1. So this blue line is y equals 1 over 1, so 1x plus 1. That's the equation of that blue line. All right. Now the red one. The red one is just a flat line. All right, so it's the equation y equals 1. And this green one, you might not be able to tell it, but it is y equals x squared. It's a parabola. So if you continued it on, you would see it kind of wrap around and come back up. And I just know because that's what I made it to be, but y equals x squared. You wouldn't necessarily know that. Somebody would have to tell you that. All right, so here's my 3 equations. All right, so let's take a look. So my first one is going to be y equals x plus 1, the one on the left-hand side. So y equals x plus 1, so I'm going to put x plus 1 here. Now you might see the word if, or you just might see a comma sometimes. And so you're only going to use that problem if you are from -1 back. So since that one has a hard dot right there for the blue, I'm going to consider that to be part of the blue line. And so I'm going to say use this if x is less than or equal to -1. Okay. And then I have to do the red one. So the red one is y equals 1, so I'm going to say y equals 1, comma. Now, since this blue dot and the green dot are kind of for the other graphs, we're going to say that only use this equation, y equals 1, if you're between -1 and 1, but not including those numbers. So x is between -1 and 1. And then the green graph is y equals x squared. So I'm going to say use x squared when I am everything to the right of 1. So notice that that graph starts at 1 and it goes all the way this way. All right. So I'm going to say use that graph when x is greater than or equal to 1. So that's how you write equations of pictures. And now the harder part is if you are going to actually draw this, but I'm going to try to break it up into pieces, and we're only going to do 2 at a time. We're not going to do 3. All right, so I have 3 graphs up here because I'm going to break this up into pieces. So my first graph, let's graph y equals 2x minus 1. That's my first equation, the top one. So y equals 2x minus 1. So let's just graph that. So 2x minus 1 starts at -1, goes up 2 over 1. So there's that graph. So this is the whole graph. And let's see, down 2 over 1. So a nice pretty picture of that. All right. But this problem down here says only use this graph when x is between, and I think I've made a mistake here, -3 and 2. Okay? So I'm only supposed to use this graph when x is between -3 and 2. So at -3 is this point right here, and when x is 2, it's this place right here. So I'm really only supposed to use this section of that graph, and I drew an open circle at the -3 point, the -3, -7 point, because I'm only supposed to use that part, and it's open circle. All right, so this right here means I'm supposed to do an open circle right there. All right, so that black section right there is all I'm supposed to use. So let's go to the next picture. So the next picture is the square root of x minus 2. So it's a square root function, move 2 to the right. So a square root function, that means it's 2 over here. Remember, square root function looks like this and like a little hump going up. And it goes, the first little point is over 1, up 1. And then it just kind of like curves over. We don't have to be too specific. All right. So I'm only supposed to use that graph at everything past 2. So for this graph, I'm going to use it when I'm at 2, but not really including 2, and then everything past 2. So I'm basically going to take the whole thing, but an open circle. So I have to draw these graphs together on the same picture. So what I'm going to do is draw this first graph, because remember the second one is y equals square root of x minus 2. So I'm going to draw the blue one, but I'm only going to do the black section of it. So the black section, let's see, it goes from -3, -7. That's that dot right there. And then it goes over to 2, I think that was the point 2, 3. I kind of blobbed it off. And it crossed at, let's see, -1 right there. So if I can draw like a nice straight line right there, there it is. And then the green one is going to come through. It's going to start with an open circle at 2 and kind of move on up. So there's your picture. This is your piecewise function over here. It's a combination of the 2 graphs that made it, but only the sections that I wanted. The section here that I wanted was from -3 to 2. So I only wanted from here to here on this one. And then on the next one over here, I wanted from 2 on. I wanted that part of the graph. Okay? All right, so let's do another. So this one right here, I have a combination of 2 problems. My first problem is y equals -1. All right, my second problem is y equals x minus 5 to the third plus 2. And then my third graph is for the 2 put together. So y equals -1. Well, that's easy. It's just a horizontal line at -1 going every which direction. But I only want this if I'm less than 4. So I only want to do this graph if everything's less than 4. So I'm only going to take this graph from, let's see, less than 4. So I'm going to take it from right here and back. All right, so I don't want that part. All right, so the next one, I'm going to do x minus 5 plus 2. There's a cube. So remember, cubic function looks like this. It kind of snakes up, but I have to find the center. The center is right 5 up 2. So let me go right 5 up 2. So there it is. And then we're just going to kind of quickly draw it, kind of snakes around and goes over there. Okay, but there's something happening at 4 right there. So let me see what the answer to this is at 4. So if I plug a 4 in here, 4 minus 5 is -1. So negative 1 to the third plus 2. So it would be negative 1 plus 2, which is 1. So actually there's a point right here at 4, 1. Okay, so I want this graph to appear when I am at 4 and on. So I want this graph when x equals 4, so that was that 4, 1 spot. I want to start with this graph here, and I want to continue with it on up to there. Okay, so, and that should be like a little more curvy right there. I'll probably try and draw it nicer. All right, so let's do it. So I need a combination of these two graphs on my final picture on this one right here. Okay, all right, so let's draw the red one over there on the left. So it's at it's at 4, it's down here, and it goes back like that. And then the other one starts at 4, 1 with a filled in circle. Remember, this was a center spot, so it kind of snakes up and then curves up like that. So that's the best we can do. We got a cubic function on the right, a line on the left, and this is our piecewise function. All right, a couple more. Okay, so I have two problems again. One of them, if you recognize, this guy right here is a parabola. This one's a line. And so let me erase this little junk I was doing over here. I was trying to get an idea there. All right, so negative x squared. So that problem, let's see, negative x squared, it starts at 0, 0. Remember, it's a parabola facing down. Now I notice this, it stops at negative 2. So I'm going to see what really happens at negative 2. If you plug negative 2 into this problem, what do you get? Tell me in the ed puzzle. All right, so you do get negative, and then you have negative 2 squared, so you get negative 4. Because negative 2 squared is positive 4, but that negative's in front. So there's a coordinate there of negative 2 for x and negative 4 for y. So it's right there. I was going to make sure I go through that spot. So otherwise, I'm just going to draw an upside down parabola. Okay. All right, now I only want this picture when x is less than negative 2. So this point right here is going to be open where I was at negative 2. Right? And I only want everything less than negative 2, everything to the left of this place. So just going to curve down there. Okay. Now the next line, or the next equation, is y equals negative x plus 2. Let me write this one over here. This blue one was y equals negative x squared. So these are my two graphs that I had to combine to get the thing that I want. All right, so I want negative x plus 2. So that one starts at 2. It's just a line. It goes down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and up 1, back 1. So there's that line right there. All right, I only want this graph when x is greater than or equal to negative 2. So the only part of this graph that I really want is from right here. So I want this piece, and I want everything greater than or equal to that spot. So I mean, I want everything to the right of that spot. So I want this chunk of the line. I don't want that. Just like I don't want this part over here. Okay, here we go. So let's combine the two. Let's draw the first one, the part of the parabola that I really want. So I want the part of the parabola that starts at negative 2, negative 4 with an open circle. And I want it to travel down and look curvy like the parabola was. That might be a little bit not so awesome, but let me try and fix that a little bit. It kind of just curves up there. Ah, that looks the same. Anyway, then I want the red part from the green graph over here. So that one started at negative 2, 4. So negative 2, 4 was right there. And it went down 1 over 1. So went like this, and it just keeps going. Okay, so that's my piecewise function. All right, last one. So if I look at what I have right here, I have the equation y equals 4 if x is less than or equal to 0. And I have the equation absolute value of x plus 1 if x is greater than 0. So let's get to drawing those two things. So my first equation is f of x equals 4, or y equals 4. So that's going to be simple. Y equals 4. I feel like I did that one earlier, but maybe it was a different number. Looks like that. I only want this when x is less than or equal to 0. So I only want it from, remember, here back. So I only want this graph from right here back. I don't want that. Okay. And the next one is absolute value of x minus 2 plus 1. So this graph is y equals x minus 2 plus 1. I only want this graph. Well, actually, let me draw it first. So it's absolute value, so a V shape. It goes right 2 and up 1. So there it is. And then the slope is up 1 over 1. There's no change on that. All right, up 1 over 1. All right, so I only want this graph for everything greater than 0, so everything to the right of 0. So I only want this graph when I am basically here and over, okay? So, but I don't really want it at 0. That's going to be like my ghost point in a way. So I don't really want it when it crosses the y-axis. So I don't really want this. I'll put an open circle, but I want everything to the right of it. Okay, so I don't want that. Okay, so here we go, drawing our final picture. So I want this red one from the first graph. So it starts at 4 and goes back. And then I want the other one with an open circle at 2. So that, let's see, it goes down to, oh my gosh, I see I made a mistake. I'm sorry, I probably confused you a little bit. I drew this graph wrong, didn't I? I was supposed to go right 2 and up 1. So let me fix that a little bit right here. So this graph over here, I was supposed to go right 2 and up 1. So I was supposed to be right here actually, and then here, and so forth. I'm so sorry. Keeps going. All right, and I only want the graph really from right here and then over. This is what I want. Sorry about that. All right, so let me erase this right here. So that means that this one starts at 3. So it's an open circle at 3. And it comes down to the point 2, 1, that vertex right there, and it goes down and over. Okay, so I didn't want this piece right here. Okay, so hopefully you understand how to graph piecewise functions a little bit. Know that they are difficult and they're weird and it's hard to get used to, but it's really just pieces of different graphs put together. So if you know the graph of the 2 originals or the 3 originals, then you can just take chunks of them and put them on a new graph, but it's kind of takes a while to decide. All right, I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.